Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel Cosmic Serenity. Today we're diving into one of the most profound and intriguing topics, consciousness. From ancient philosophers to modern scientists, the nature of consciousness has sparked countless debates and discussions. So, sit back, relax, and join us as we explore the philosophical and scientific perspectives on consciousness. At its core, consciousness is the state of being aware of and responsive to one's surroundings. It's the feeling of being awake, experiencing the world, and having thoughts and emotions. But defining consciousness isn't simple. It's a multifaceted concept that can be understood in different ways. Let's break it down. Consciousness is often described as our subjective experience of the world. It's the inner narrative that accompanies our daily lives, the stream of thoughts, feelings, and sensations that make up our moment-to-moment existence. It's what makes us feel alive and present, what allows us to perceive the world around us and reflect on our own existence. But consciousness is more than just awareness. It encompasses our ability to think, reason, and make decisions. It's the foundation of our self-awareness, our sense of identity, and our understanding of our place in the world. It's what allows us to ponder complex ideas, create art, and contemplate the nature of reality itself. One of the fascinating aspects of consciousness is its variability. Our level of consciousness can change throughout the day, shifting between different states of awareness and alertness. We can be fully alert and focused, our minds sharp and attentive to every detail of our environment. Or we might find ourselves daydreaming, our thoughts drifting away from the present moment into realms of imagination and memory. These fluctuations in consciousness are a normal part of our daily experience. Think about how your awareness changes as you move through your day. In the morning, you might be groggy and barely conscious as you stumble out of bed. As you drink your coffee and start your daily routine, your consciousness sharpens, becoming more alert and responsive to your surroundings. Throughout the day, you might experience periods of intense focus, where your consciousness is fully engaged in a task or conversation. At other times, you might find your mind wandering, your consciousness drifting away from the present moment to explore memories, fantasies, or plans for the future. But our everyday waking consciousness is just one aspect of our mental landscape. We also experience altered states of consciousness that offer different windows into our mental experience. Sleep, for instance, is a radically different state of consciousness from our waking life. When we sleep, our awareness of the external world diminishes, and we enter a realm of dreams and subconscious activity. Meditation is another way we can alter our state of consciousness. Through focused attention and mindfulness practices, we can cultivate a state of heightened awareness and inner calm. This meditative state of consciousness allows us to observe our thoughts and feelings with greater clarity and detachment, offering insights into the nature of our mind and our relationship with the world around us. Then there are the altered states of consciousness induced by psychoactive substances. From the mild alterations caused by caffeine or alcohol to the profound shifts brought about by psychedelic drugs. These substances can dramatically change our perception, cognition, and sense of self. While the use of such substances is a complex and often controversial topic, their effects on consciousness have been a subject of fascination for millennia, inspiring religious rituals, artistic expression, and scientific inquiry. Each of these states of consciousness, from alert wakefulness to deep sleep, from focused meditation to psychedelic experiences, offers a unique perspective on the nature of our mental life. They remind us that consciousness is not a fixed, monolithic entity, but a fluid and multifaceted phenomenon that can take on many different forms and qualities. One of the most intriguing aspects of consciousness is its deeply subjective nature. Your conscious experience is uniquely your own, accessible only to you in a direct and immediate way. This subjective quality of consciousness is at the heart of what philosophers call Qualia, the raw, felt experience of sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Consider the experience of seeing the color red, for instance. While we can measure the wavelength of light that corresponds to red, and we can observe the neural activity in the brain when someone sees red, these objective measurements don't capture the subjective experience of redness itself. The vivid, immediate sensation of seeing red is something that can only be directly known by the person experiencing it. This subjective aspect of consciousness extends to all our experiences. The taste of your favorite food, the sound of a loved one's voice, the feeling of joy or sadness. These are all qualia, subjective experiences that are uniquely yours. While we can describe these experiences to others, we can never fully convey the exact quality of our subjective experience. This subjectivity of consciousness presents a significant challenge for scientific study. Science typically deals with objective, measurable phenomena that can be observed and verified by multiple observers. But consciousness, with its inherently subjective nature, seems to resist this kind of objective analysis. Despite these challenges, science has made significant strides in understanding the brain and its relationship to consciousness. Neuroscientists have identified various brain regions and neural networks associated with different aspects of conscious experience. They've mapped the neural correlates of perception, emotion, and decision-making, shedding light on the physical processes that underlie our subjective experiences. However, even as we uncover more about the brain's role in consciousness, we still grapple with fundamental questions about how objective physical processes give rise to subjective experiences. This brings us to some of the key questions and challenges in the study of consciousness. One of the most profound and enduring questions in the study of consciousness is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Coined by philosopher David Chalmers, this term refers to the challenge of explaining how and why we have qualitative subjective experiences. In other words, why do we have an inner life at all? Why aren't we just complex biological machines that can process information and respond to stimuli without any inner experience? The hard problem highlights the gap between our understanding of brain function and our understanding of subjective experience. We can observe neural activity and correlate it with reported experiences, but we still struggle to explain how these physical processes give rise to the rich, subjective inner world that each of us experiences. Another fundamental question in the study of consciousness is known as the problem of other minds. This philosophical puzzle asks, how can we know for certain that other beings are conscious in the same way we are? We assume that other humans are conscious based on their behavior and our ability to communicate with them, but we can never directly access their subjective experiences to verify this. This problem becomes even more complex when we consider non-human animals or artificial intelligences. How can we determine if a dog is conscious, and if so, what is the nature of its conscious experience? As we develop more sophisticated AI systems, how will we determine if they have achieved consciousness? These questions challenge our understanding of what consciousness is and how we can recognize it in entities other than ourselves. The problem of other minds also raises ethical considerations. If we can't be certain about the consciousness of other beings, how should this affect our treatment of them? This question has implications for areas such as animal rights, medical ethics, and the development of artificial intelligence. Another key question in consciousness studies is the relationship between consciousness and the physical world. This is often framed as the mind-body problem. How does our conscious mind relate to our physical brain and body? Are they separate entities, or is the mind simply an emergent property of brain activity? This question has been debated by philosophers for centuries and continues to be a central issue in consciousness studies. Different theories propose various relationships between mind and body, from strict materialism, which sees consciousness as entirely reducible to brain activity, to various forms of dualism, which posits some separation between mind and matter. Related to this is the question of free will. Do we have genuine agency and decision-making power, or are our thoughts and actions entirely determined by physical processes in our brains? The nature of consciousness has profound implications for our understanding of free will and moral responsibility. Another crucial area of inquiry is the function of consciousness. Why did consciousness evolve? What adaptive advantages does it provide? Some theories suggest that consciousness plays a crucial role in information integration, decision-making, or social interaction. Others propose that consciousness might be a side effect of complex information processing rather than serving a specific function. Understanding the function or functions of consciousness could provide insights into its nature and origins. It could also help explain why consciousness seems to exist in varying degrees across different species and potentially in artificial systems. The study of altered states of consciousness raises additional questions. How do substances like psychedelics alter consciousness? And what can these alterations tell us about the nature of normal waking consciousness? What happens to consciousness during sleep? And why do we dream? How do meditative practices affect consciousness? And what can they reveal about the potential for expanding or altering our conscious experience? These questions about consciousness, from the hard problem to the nature of altered states, highlight the complexity and mystery of this fundamental aspect of our existence. They drive ongoing research and debate in fields ranging from neuroscience and psychology to philosophy and artificial intelligence. As we delve deeper into these questions, we find that different disciplines offer various perspectives on consciousness. Let's explore some of the major philosophical approaches to understanding consciousness. One of the oldest and most influential philosophical perspectives on consciousness is dualism. This view, famously championed by the 17th century philosopher René Descartes, suggests a fundamental distinction between mind and body. According to dualism, consciousness is not a physical property but something separate and distinct from the material world. Substance dualism, the form of dualism proposed by Descartes, argues that mind and body are two entirely different substances. In this view, the physical brain and the conscious mind are separate entities that interact with each other but are fundamentally different in nature. This perspective attempts to account for the seemingly non-physical nature of our thoughts and experiences. While substance dualism has fallen out of favor in contemporary philosophy and science, a related view called property dualism continues to have some adherents. Property dualism suggests that while there may not be a separate mental substance, consciousness is an irreducible property that emerges from the brain but is not identical to physical brain processes. In this view, consciousness is seen as a fundamental feature of reality, alongside physical properties. Dualist perspectives have been criticized for their inability to explain how a non-physical mind could interact with the physical brain, and for their lack of compatibility with our current scientific understanding of the world. However, they continue to influence discussions about consciousness, particularly in addressing the seemingly unique, non-physical qualities of subjective experience. In contrast to dualism, materialism, also known as physicalism, is the view that consciousness arises entirely from physical processes in the brain. According to this perspective, there is no separate mind or soul. All mental phenomena, including consciousness, can be explained in terms of brain activity and physical processes. Eliminative materialism is a radical form of this view, which argues that our common-sense understanding of consciousness and mental states is fundamentally mistaken. Proponents of this view suggest that as neuroscience advances, we will eventually be able to explain all aspects of mental life in purely physical terms, eliminating the need for concepts like consciousness or qualia. A less extreme form of materialism is reductive materialism, which holds that while our everyday concepts of consciousness and mental states are valid, they can be fully explained by and reduced to physical processes in the brain. In this view, consciousness is real, but it is nothing over and above brain activity. Materialist views are popular in contemporary neuroscience and align well with our scientific understanding of the world. However, they face challenges in explaining the subjective, qualitative aspects of consciousness, the hard problem we discussed earlier. Another influential perspective in the philosophy of mind is functionalism. This view focuses not on what consciousness is made of, as dualism and materialism do, but on what it does. According to functionalism, mental states, including conscious states, are defined by their functional roles, how they interact with other mental states, and how they influence behavior. In this view, what makes something a conscious experience isn't its physical makeup, but its role in a larger system of information processing and behavior. This perspective suggests that consciousness could potentially be realized in different physical systems, not just in biological brains, but perhaps in artificial systems as well, as long as they perform the right kinds of information processing functions. Functionalism has been influential in cognitive science and artificial intelligence research, as it provides a framework for understanding mental processes that doesn't depend on the specific physical implementation of those processes. The higher-order thought theory is another perspective on consciousness that has gained traction in recent years. This theory proposes that what makes a mental state conscious is not just its content, but our awareness of that mental state. In other words, consciousness involves thinking about thinking. According to this view, We become conscious of a sensation or thought when we have a higher order thought about that sensation or thought. For example, you might have many sensory inputs at any given moment, but you become consciously aware of a particular sensation when you form a thought about that sensation. This theory attempts to explain the reflective nature of consciousness, our ability to be aware of our own mental states. It suggests that consciousness isn't a simple primary quality, but a complex, higher-order process involving multiple levels of mental activity. While these philosophical perspectives offer different ways of conceptualizing consciousness, they all grapple with the fundamental challenge of explaining how our subjective, inner experiences relate to the objective, physical world. Each of these views has its strengths and weaknesses, and the debate between them continues to drive philosophical inquiry into the nature of consciousness. As we move from philosophical theories to scientific research, we find a different set of approaches to understanding consciousness. While philosophy often deals with conceptual analysis and logical arguments, science seeks to understand consciousness through empirical observation and experimentation. One of the primary approaches in scientific studies of consciousness is the search for neural correlates of consciousness, NCCs. This involves identifying the specific patterns of brain activity that correspond to conscious experiences. By using advanced neuroimaging techniques like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, and EEG, electroencephalography, researchers can observe how brain activity changes during different conscious states. For example, studies have identified certain patterns of neural activity that seem to be associated with conscious visual perception. When a person becomes aware of a visual stimulus, there's typically an increase in activity in certain areas of the visual cortex and higher-order brain regions. By mapping these patterns of activity, scientists hope to build a clearer picture of how the brain generates conscious experiences. However, it's important to note that identifying neural correlates of consciousness is not the same as explaining consciousness itself. While these correlations provide valuable insights into the brain mechanisms involved in conscious experience, they don't necessarily solve the hard problem of how physical brain activity gives rise to subjective experience. Another influential scientific theory of consciousness is the global workspace theory, proposed by Bernard Bars. This theory suggests that consciousness arises when information is broadcast widely throughout the brain, becoming available to multiple cognitive systems. According to this view, our brains constantly process vast amounts of information, most of it unconsciously. Consciousness occurs when some of this information is selected and amplified, entering a global workspace, where it can be accessed by various cognitive functions like memory, language, and decision-making. This theory aligns with our subjective experience of consciousness as a kind of mental workspace where we can manipulate thoughts and perceptions. It also offers an explanation for why we're only consciously aware of a small fraction of the information our brains process at any given moment. The global workspace theory has been supported by various neuroimaging studies, which have shown that conscious perception is associated with widespread brain activation and increased communication between different brain regions. A more recent scientific theory of consciousness is the Integrated Information Theory, IIT, developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. This theory takes a unique approach, starting not with the brain, but with the fundamental properties of conscious experience. IIT proposes that consciousness is a fundamental property of any system that integrates information in certain ways. The theory suggests that the level or degree of consciousness in a system is related to the amount of integrated information it contains. In this view, consciousness is not an all-or-nothing phenomenon, but a continuum. Simple systems might have a very low degree of consciousness, while complex systems like the human brain have a high degree of consciousness due to their ability to integrate large amounts of information in complex ways. One of the striking implications of IIT is that consciousness might be more widespread than we typically assume. According to this theory, even simple systems might have some degree of consciousness, albeit at a very low level. While IIT is highly abstract and mathematical in its formulation, it has generated considerable interest in the scientific community. It offers a novel approach to quantifying consciousness and has led to new experimental paradigms for studying conscious states. These scientific theories of consciousness, from the search for neural correlates to the abstract principles of integrated information theory, represent different attempts to bridge the gap between objective brain processes and subjective experience. While each of these approaches has its strengths and limitations, together they are pushing forward our understanding of how the brain gives rise to conscious experience. It's worth noting that these scientific theories are not necessarily mutually exclusive. Many researchers see them as complementary approaches that capture different aspects of the complex phenomenon of consciousness. For example, the neural correlates approach might help us understand the specific brain mechanisms involved in conscious processing, while theories like global workspace and IIT provide broader frameworks for understanding how these mechanisms give rise to conscious experience. As we've seen, the study of consciousness presents unique challenges that push the boundaries of both philosophy and science. The hard problem of consciousness, explaining how subjective experience arises from objective brain processes, remains a central challenge in the field. This problem highlights the difficulty of bridging the explanatory gap between our third-person, objective understanding of brain function and our first-person, subjective experience of consciousness. Even as we map the neural correlates of conscious states with increasing precision, we still struggle to explain why these neural activities are accompanied by subjective experiences at all. The hard problem has led some researchers to question whether our current scientific methods are adequate for fully understanding consciousness. Some argue that we may need new scientific paradigms or even a fundamental revision of our understanding of physical reality to properly account for consciousness. The problem of other minds also continues to pose significant challenges. While we can observe behavior and brain activity in other beings, we can never directly access their subjective experiences. This creates difficulties not only in studying animal consciousness but also in developing criteria for determining consciousness in artificial systems. As AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, the question of machine consciousness becomes more pressing. How can we determine if an AI system has genuine conscious experiences? What ethical considerations should guide our treatment of potentially conscious artificial systems? These questions intersect with ongoing debates in philosophy of mind and ethics, and they're likely to become increasingly important as AI technology continues to advance. The relationship between consciousness and the physical world remains a subject of intense debate. While materialist views dominate in neuroscience, the persistent difficulty in explaining subjective experience in purely physical terms has led some researchers to explore alternative frameworks. Some propose that consciousness might be a fundamental feature of reality, similar to space, time, or matter. Others suggest that we may need to revise our understanding of physics to account for consciousness. These debates touch on deep questions about the nature of reality itself. Is consciousness an emergent property of complex physical systems, or is it somehow built into the fabric of the universe? How does conscious experience relate to the physical world described by our best scientific theories? These questions push us to the limits of our current understanding and highlight the profound implications of consciousness research for our worldview. Another ongoing challenge in consciousness studies is understanding the function and evolution of consciousness. While consciousness feels central to our existence, its adaptive role isn't entirely clear. Some theories suggest that consciousness plays a crucial role in flexible decision-making, allowing us to simulate and evaluate potential actions. Others propose that it's essential for social cognition, enabling us to model the minds of others. Understanding the function of consciousness could provide insights into its nature and origins. It might help explain why consciousness seems to exist in varying degrees across different species and potentially in artificial systems. However, determining the precise adaptive advantages of consciousness remains a complex task, intertwining questions of biology, psychology, and philosophy. The study of altered states of consciousness presents both opportunities and challenges for consciousness research. Psychedelic experiences, for instance, can dramatically alter conscious perception and cognition, potentially offering insights into the nature of consciousness. However, the subjective and often ineffable nature of these experiences makes them difficult to study systematically. Similarly, research into sleep and dreaming continues to raise intriguing questions. Why do we spend roughly a third of our lives in an altered state of consciousness? What is the function of dreaming, and what can it tell us about the nature of conscious experience? These questions intersect with research in neuroscience, psychology, and even anthropology, highlighting the multidisciplinary nature of consciousness studies. meditation, and mindfulness practices offer another window into the nature of consciousness. These practices can induce altered states of awareness and have been associated with changes in brain structure and function. Studying long-term meditators has provided insights into the plasticity of conscious experience and the potential for intentionally shaping our conscious states. However, integrating these diverse streams of research, from neuroscientific studies to contemplative practices, remains a significant challenge. How can we develop comprehensive theories of consciousness that account for the full range of conscious experiences, from ordinary waking awareness to profound altered states? Despite these challenges, consciousness research continues to make progress, driven by advances in neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and related fields. New technologies are allowing us to probe brain function with unprecedented precision, while theoretical advances are providing new frameworks for understanding conscious experience. One promising area of research involves the development of more sophisticated measures of consciousness. For instance, researchers have developed techniques for assessing consciousness in non-communicative patients, such as those in vegetative states. These methods often involve presenting stimuli and measuring complex patterns of brain response that are associated with conscious awareness. Another frontier in consciousness research is the study of consciousness in non-human animals. By combining behavioral studies with neuroscientific techniques, researchers are gaining insights into the conscious experiences of various species. This comparative approach can help us understand the evolution of consciousness and potentially identify the key neural mechanisms that give rise to conscious experience. Advances in AI and computational neuroscience are also contributing to our understanding of consciousness. While current AI systems are not considered conscious in the same way humans are, studying how these systems process information and make decisions can provide insights into the computational principles that might underlie consciousness. Some researchers are using computational models to simulate aspects of conscious processing, such as attention, working memory, and decision-making. While these models don't capture the full richness of conscious experience, they can help us understand the functional architecture that supports consciousness. As we push forward in consciousness research, new perspectives and approaches are emerging that challenge traditional ways of thinking about the mind and brain. One such perspective is the idea of the embodied mind, which emphasizes the role of the body and its interaction with the environment in shaping consciousness. According to the embodied cognition framework, our conscious experiences are not just the product of brain activity in isolation, but arise from the dynamic interplay between brain, body, and environment. This view suggests that to fully understand consciousness, we need to consider how our physical embodiment and our interactions with the world shape our conscious experiences. For example, research has shown that our bodily states can influence our emotions and decision-making in subtle but significant ways. The experience of consciousness, from this perspective, is intimately tied to our physical existence and our moment-to-moment interactions with our environment. This embodied approach to consciousness aligns with certain philosophical traditions, particularly phenomenology, which emphasizes the importance of lived experience. It also resonates with some Buddhist conceptions of mind, which view consciousness as arising from the interdependent relationship between mind, body, and world. Building on the idea of embodied cognition, some researchers have proposed an even more radical view, the extended mind hypothesis. This perspective suggests that consciousness and cognition may extend beyond the boundaries of our skulls, incorporating tools, technology, and even aspects of our environment. According to this view, when we use tools or technology skillfully, they can become, in a sense, extensions of our minds. For instance, when you use a smartphone to remember appointments or navigate a city, the phone is functioning as part of your cognitive system. Some proponents of the extended mind hypothesis argue that these external tools can become so integrated into our cognitive processes that they should be considered part of our minds. This perspective raises intriguing questions about the nature and boundaries of consciousness. If our conscious experiences can incorporate external tools and technologies, how do we define the limits of our conscious selves? As we become increasingly intertwined with digital technologies, how might this reshape our understanding of consciousness? The extended mind hypothesis also has implications for how we think about artificial intelligence and the potential for machine consciousness. If consciousness can extend beyond the brain to incorporate external systems, Could a sufficiently complex AI system, integrated with sensors and actuators in the physical world, develop a form of extended consciousness? These emerging perspectives, the embodied mind and the extended mind, push us to think beyond traditional boundaries in consciousness research. They suggest that understanding consciousness may require us to consider not just the brain, but the entire system of brain, body, and environment. Another frontier in consciousness research involves exploring the potential role of quantum mechanics in conscious processes. While controversial, some researchers have proposed that quantum effects in the brain might play a role in generating conscious experiences. The most well-known quantum theory of consciousness is the orchestrated objective reduction, orchestra, or theory, proposed by physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. This theory suggests that quantum computations in protein structures called microtubules within brain neurons could give rise to conscious experiences. While the orchestra or theory remains speculative and has been criticized by many neuroscientists, it exemplifies attempts to bridge the seemingly incompatible worlds of quantum physics and conscious experience. These approaches suggest that the unique features of quantum systems, such as superposition and entanglement, might help explain the seemingly non-classical nature of consciousness. Other researchers are exploring potential quantum effects in biological systems more broadly, investigating whether quantum phenomena might play a role in processes like photosynthesis or bird navigation. While these studies don't directly address consciousness, they open the door to considering how quantum effects might influence brain function. It's important to note that most mainstream neuroscientists remain skeptical of quantum theories of consciousness, arguing that the brain is too warm and wet for quantum effects to play a significant role in neural processing. However, these theories continue to spark debate and drive research into the fundamental nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. As we've explored the various perspectives and challenges in consciousness research, it becomes clear that understanding consciousness requires a multidisciplinary approach. No single field, whether neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, or computer science, can fully capture the complexity of conscious experience on its own. Integrating insights from these diverse fields remains a significant challenge. How can we build bridges between the subjective, first-person approaches of phenomenology and the objective, third-person methods of neuroscience? How can we reconcile philosophical theories of consciousness with empirical findings from brain research? Some researchers advocate for a neurophenomenological approach, which aims to combine rigorous first-person methods for describing conscious experiences with third-person neuroscientific observations. This approach involves training individuals to become more aware of their conscious experiences and to describe them with precision, then correlating these reports with brain activity measurements. Others are working to develop more sophisticated mathematical and computational models of consciousness, attempting to formalize theories like global workspace or integrated information theory in ways that can generate testable predictions. These integrative approaches hold promise for advancing our understanding of consciousness, but they also face significant challenges. How can we ensure the reliability and validity of first-person reports of conscious experiences? How can we develop mathematical models that capture the richness and complexity of consciousness without oversimplifying? Despite these challenges, consciousness research continues to make progress, driven by advances in technology, new theoretical insights, and increasingly sophisticated experimental paradigms. Brain imaging techniques are becoming more precise, allowing researchers to map neural activity with unprecedented detail. New methods for analyzing complex datasets are revealing patterns in brain activity that were previously invisible. At the same time, philosophical and conceptual work continues to refine our understanding of what we mean by consciousness and what a satisfactory explanation of consciousness would look like. This ongoing dialogue between empirical research and conceptual analysis is crucial for advancing our understanding of this most intimate yet mysterious aspect of our existence. As we look to the future of consciousness research, several key areas are likely to see significant developments. 1. Artificial intelligence and machine consciousness. As AI systems become more sophisticated, questions about machine consciousness will become increasingly pressing. Can we create artificial systems that have genuine conscious experiences? How would we recognize machine consciousness if it emerged? These questions will drive research at the intersection of AI, neuroscience, and philosophy of mind. 2. Consciousness in non-human animals. Comparative studies of consciousness across different species will continue to provide insights into the evolution and neural basis of conscious experience. Advanced techniques for assessing consciousness in non-communicative subjects will be crucial for this research. 3. Clinical applications. Research into consciousness has important implications for medicine, particularly in the treatment of disorders of consciousness like coma or persistent vegetative states. Improved understanding of the neural basis of consciousness could lead to better diagnostic tools and potentially new treatments for these conditions. 4. Altered states of consciousness. Further research into psychedelic experiences, meditative states, and other altered states of consciousness may provide new insights into the flexibility and limits of conscious experience. 5. Computational and mathematical models. More sophisticated computational models of consciousness will be developed, allowing researchers to simulate aspects of conscious processing and generate testable predictions. 6. Ethical implications. As our understanding of consciousness grows, we'll need to grapple with the ethical implications of this knowledge. How should our understanding of consciousness inform our treatment of animals, our development of AI, or our approach to end-of-life care? 7. Integrative approaches. We're likely to see more research that bridges different levels of explanation, from molecular neurobiology to subjective experience. This will require new methodologies and conceptual frameworks for integrating diverse types of data and theory. As we continue to explore the nature of consciousness, we're likely to encounter new questions and challenges. The study of consciousness touches on fundamental issues about the nature of reality, the relationship between mind and matter, and what it means to be human. As such, it will continue to be a central concern not just for science and philosophy, but for our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. In conclusion, the study of consciousness remains one of the most fascinating and challenging areas of inquiry in science and philosophy. From the hard problem of explaining subjective experience to the practical challenges of measuring and manipulating conscious states, consciousness research pushes the boundaries of our understanding and our methodologies. The multifaceted nature of consciousness demands a multidisciplinary approach, bringing together insights from neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, computer science, and other fields. While we've made significant progress in mapping the neural correlates of consciousness and developing theories to explain conscious processing, many fundamental questions remain unanswered. The subjective, first-person nature of consciousness continues to pose challenges for scientific study, requiring us to bridge the gap between objective observations and subjective experiences. Emerging perspectives like embodied cognition and the extended mind are expanding our conception of consciousness, pushing us to consider how conscious experience arises from the complex interplay of brain, body, and environment. As we look to the future, consciousness research is likely to have profound implications not just for our scientific understanding, but for our view of ourselves and our place in the world. It touches on deep questions about the nature of reality, the limits of scientific explanation, and what it means to be a conscious being. Whether consciousness is ultimately explained in terms of complex neural processes, fundamental physical principles, or something yet unimagined, the journey of discovery promises to be as enlightening as the destination. Each new finding, each new theory, offers a fresh perspective on the most intimate yet mysterious aspect of our existence. As we continue to probe the depths of consciousness, we're not just expanding our scientific knowledge, we're exploring what it means to be human, to be aware, to be. The study of consciousness reminds us of the profound mystery at the heart of our existence, inviting us to look both outward to the cosmos and inward to the landscape of our own minds. In the end, consciousness research is more than just an academic pursuit. It's a voyage of self-discovery, an exploration of the very essence of our being. As we unravel the mysteries of consciousness, we come to understand not just the workings of our minds, but the nature of our place in the universe. And in doing so, we may find that the greatest frontier of exploration is not in the vastness of space, but in the depths of our own conscious experience. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the fascinating world of consciousness research. From philosophical debates to cutting-edge neuroscience, from the hard problem to emerging theories, we've explored the multifaceted nature of this most intimate yet mysterious aspect of our existence. As we've seen, the study of consciousness touches on fundamental questions about the nature of reality, the relationship between mind and matter, and what it means to be human. It challenges our assumptions, pushes the boundaries of our scientific methods, and invites us to consider new perspectives on our lived experience. While many questions remain unanswered, the ongoing research in this field continues to yield fascinating insights and open up new avenues of inquiry. From the neural correlates of consciousness to theories of integrated information, from studies of altered states to explorations of animal minds, each area of research adds another piece to the complex puzzle of consciousness. As we look to the future, the study of consciousness is likely to have profound implications not just for science and philosophy, but for medicine, technology, ethics, and our understanding of ourselves. The questions raised by consciousness research invite us to think deeply about our place in the universe and the nature of our subjective experience. Whether you're a scientist, a philosopher, or simply someone curious about the nature of your own mind, the study of consciousness offers a rich and rewarding field of exploration. It reminds us that even as we unravel the mysteries of the cosmos, one of the greatest frontiers of discovery lies within our own minds. So as we conclude this exploration, I encourage you to remain curious, to keep questioning, and to continue marveling at the extraordinary fact of your own conscious experience. After all, in the words of the philosopher David Chalmers, the hardest problem in science is the concept that you are currently using to hear these words. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of mind and consciousness.